day 26 of posting until Hollywood gives a shit. Never mind the jib in the background, we were just shooting. There's a lot of sycophants in this industry, meaning they're not really looking for a great film or a great piece of art either. What they're mostly interested in is, well, besides proven, tested people who have already made millions of dollars, or have made movies that have made millions of dollars already, I should say, is working with big name talent, famous people. The idea of having your name maybe associated with some big A-list actor. So there's a lot of people in this industry that aren't really in it for the right reasons. They're not trying to make art. They're not trying to tell a good story. They're trying to rub elbows with Brad Pitt. Someone like Brad Pitt, however, is a thespian. He's an artist. He has a luxury very few people have, which is he actually gets to do his art form at the highest level. And people want to work with him, so it's a win-win. So when I take my screenplay as a nobody, nobody's looking for talent. They're just like, who are you? Why should I work with you? So if I'm not famous, what do they care about? They care about if I have a famous actor attached to the project before they will read the script. And honestly, even then they probably won't read the script. They just want to know, oh, Brad Pitt is attached. It's a no-brainer. Brad Pitt movies do well. So I'll invest in the Brad Pitt business. Now, ideally as a director, I would love to get into the position where people want to be in the Ryan Rochelle business, as they say. But it's going to take a few movies, a few hits, for that sentiment to exist. It's basically playing the lottery with your skills. In order for me to acquire a budget to make my movies, because right now I'm making my movies with no budget and no known talent. It's all unknown, talented people. But there are people I'd love to work with, like Charlie Hunnam. I mean, you probably know him from, I don't know, Pacific Rim, King Arthur. He was in Sons of Anarchy as the lead. But I've actually followed his career for a very long time. He's a very talented actor, and I've always loved his work. And I literally have him as a potential person to cast in multiple pitch decks that I've made for different projects. I really would love to cast him in something and work with him, because I know he can bring exactly what I need for that character in this story. I've seen enough of his work to know he has a huge range. I personally would not point to those examples as his finest work. They're blockbusters, which I would love to make blockbusters as well. They're fun, they're awesome, they're big. But he's also done amazing things like Papillon and The Lost City of Z. And honestly, I even had him on my radar way before Sons of Anarchy, because he did this little indie movie called Downfall. I think that was the first thing I saw him in where I was like, this guy's really good, I like this. Which then it's funny because later I realized, oh, whoa, he was the British kid in Undeclared, which is a very not well-known TV show, but it's basically like a spiritual successor to Freaks and Geeks by Judd Apatow. So, you know, it's funny that he was like my favorite character in that short-lived series when I was growing up. But I didn't know who he was then, you know, and even when I saw Downfall, I didn't recognize him. But then I got into Sons of Anarchy, and I started actually kind of paying a little bit more attention of who's this Charlie Hunnam guy. He's really good. I like his stuff. His star power grew, of course, in Hollywood, and he's a big A-list actor now. And why do I bring up Charlie Hunnam? I bring up Charlie Hunnam specifically because, well, he is somebody that, like I said, I put in my pitch decks as like a dream cast, like a wish list of like, they ask you, who do you want to play this role? And it's just funny because I ran into Charlie Hunnam at a spa, and all I could do was sort of just fanboy, you know, and just go like, are you Charlie Hunnam? Because I was a little in disbelief at first, and he nodded, yes, that is who I am. And what can you say in that situation? I said, I'm a really big fan of your work. We dapped it up and went our separate ways, because it's a spa and everybody's trying to chill, and it's even my day off from all this networking and trying to get movies made and trying to get investors to believe in a screenplay that they will not read. That was the extent of the interaction for someone I admire and would really love to work with one day and direct. I have to face facts. I am not in a place in my career right now to say, hey, Charlie, would you mind reading a script I have for you? No. The answer is no. Now, I understand. I understand you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. However, what I think a lot of you don't understand was that was not my shot. So, that's the catch-22 of this business. How do you get your shot? Because if you go to a distributor and you say, I have a great script and I need some funding and we're looking for investors, they're going to say, well, how much money do you need? And what's the budget? How many investors do you have? How much money have you raised so far? What name talent is attached to this project? Go to investors. They're like, well, do you have any names attached? Again, they're asking, do you have some name talent attached so I can figure out if this is a good investment? Who's distributing? Because that makes a difference. That tells me how far the reach for this film is going to be, and what the likelihood of it making its money back is. We can get those things, but I need investment first. And they're like, come back when you've got something. You go to talent, which you typically don't go directly to talent unless it's like a good friend of yours that you've worked with before. Once you get to that point in your career, great, you can put these packages together real fast. But most of the time you're going to end up having to go to a talent rep, their representation. When you talk to the talent rep, you're going to say, hey, can you see if so-and-so is interested in this role? The talent rep is just going to ask you the same thing. You guessed it. Well, who's distributing the film and how much money have you raised? Is this fully funded, or are you just kind of blowing in the wind hoping we'll help you out? Honestly, everyone just wants to know that I have some star power on board. So can we get some star power on board, please? So, needless to say, it's a very frustrating experience because the Warner Brothers are long gone. They're not running Warner Brothers Studios anymore. It's just a boardroom of people that don't understand the craft. They don't understand the product in the business that they're in. They just try to reverse engineer what market research tells them. Like, well, this is the kind of movie people like to watch, so let's make another one of those. It doesn't mean they like every horror movie that comes out. It doesn't mean they like every comedy that comes out. You've got to look for talent. And that's what they've stopped doing. Especially as technology and society advances, there are new stories that come about, new ideas. But, I say all that to say this: never give up, never surrender. Because while that day in the spa was not my shot to approach Charlie Hunnam, that doesn't mean my shot won't come in the future. Maybe it'll be 10 years from now when I have to cast him in a different role because he's aged out of what I'm thinking he should play now. Who knows? And I mean, it's not like he's the only actor I'd love to work with. And there's new talent coming up. And who knows? I might work with somebody before they're A-list. I might work with them when they're an unknown. And we might become known together. That's usually what happens. I mean, that's why it's so hard to break into the industry, because people work with their best friends. And I know you would rather work with your best friend than give some stranger a shot. Let's face it, we're just comfortable around the people we know and trust and work well with, and that's how we make the best art we can. It's hard to make art with people that don't understand you or what you're trying to achieve. So as hard as this industry is, I do feel blessed that I'm currently working on a horror movie in my pink apartment that I painted pink for my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, Saya, and that she understands me, and that I understand her, and that we have the blessing that is our ability to make art together. But it would be nice if Hollywood gave a shit.